Before we get into today's edition of Titans Today, the most comments on the show gets a shout-out. Now, the last 2 times we've done this, Tyman The Buckeye has won by a pretty decent-sized margin. So I need somebody else to win, Tyman. I love you, but we need a real diehard, true Blue Titans fan to win this one. So somebody else win. Spam me in the comments section. Titans training camp truly begins today, and there are some players on the PUP list. That is Nicholas Petit-Frere, the offensive tackle, and wide receiver Colton Dowell. Dowell, not a surprise. He's coming off a torn ACL suffered late last season. He's going to need more time before he's good to go. NPF's appearance, though, is noteworthy. He's banged up again, and it's a different injury. Here's what Brian Callahan told reporters and media. He will be on the Active-PUP, which will be a couple of days as we start. His injury is not related to his shoulder. His shoulder has been cleared. He had a cleanup surgery in the offseason after the first couple weeks of our program on his knee. I don't like this, actually, for NPF. This is just another thing for him. He had the gambling suspension. He had this injury. He had that injury. I need him out there. It is a new offense. It is a new offensive line coach. He is in a battle which he is the favorite to win, or at least he was when it all began. Maybe now things have changed slightly, or at least maybe not as big of a favorite. He is in a battle at right tackle. And I think it's make or break year for him. Because if he wins the job and looks great, that is a massive deal for Tennessee. They have their right tackle. If he plays like he did last year, look, I know it's a small sample size. You can't get beat 11 times in pass protection on 117 snaps. That's not good. It's that he was bad last year. And I think that Bill Callahan can get the most out of him, but you have to be available to get the most out of you, right? So this is, I think, one to monitor, and hopefully it is just a couple of days, and ideally he's back out there before the pads come on. That's my goal. So will Nicholas Petit-Frere start at right tackle week 1 for Tennessee? Get your comments in here, especially if an ad happens to come on the YouTube side. Why for yes and for no? Make those predictions now. We're going to come back more in depth here to the right tackle battle. But it does sound like everyone else is ready and cleared and good to go for Tennessee. Practice first one already completed. Everyone else, from at least what I could tell from the reports, was out there. That includes Tavondre Sweat. Ryan Stonehouse, the punter, was cleared after his bad injury. Jalen Duncan, who had missed some time at OTAs and minicamp, he's back out there now. Sweat was out there today going through. We can't even really do winners losers yet. It's such a light day. It's not real practice, you know. So the major takeaways will come later. Early on, who's not making mistakes is kind of one of the big thing. Knowing that some of the skill guys should impress because it's a little more speed and space stuff than you'll get once the pads truly end up coming on. Today's show is made possible by our good friends over at Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy. All-in pricing shows your total cost up front, and you can buy tickets in just seconds with 2 taps. You can buy, if you can find a baseball game nearby. Maybe you don't live in Nashville, a little bit trickier there to an extent. Go to a Vanderbilt football game. Those are cheap tickets because Vandy is, not the greatest football team. Or Tennessee Titans games, of course. For last-minute tickets, flash deals and zone deals. By the way, flash deals, they just save you more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or concert or comedy or event or whatever. Zone deals mean you pick the section, Game Time picks your seat, because who cares what seat you're in if you're in the zone, the section that you want, for big-time savings in the process. So download the Game Time app over at gametime.co, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. The link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's gametime.co and promo code CHATSPORTS. Let's move in now to this right tackle battle. Probably going to be a 3-man race. Maybe someone like Leroy Watson emerges, but I'll pick the 3 that were mentioned by Jim Wyatt because he knows what he's talking about there. NPF, who we've talked about, we'll skip over him here. Jalen Duncan, and then also John Ojoku, the maybe sleeper in the battle. Duncan played last year. It was also bad. There's a reason why everybody and their brother and their sister and their mother and their cousin and someone who's ever watched football before their entire life knew Tennessee was going offensive line in round 1. It was just the only move they had available. He got beat a ton last year. Now, Duncan was always a developmental piece. He wasn't supposed to play in year 1. He needed time and development. Anyone's going to maximize him. It's going to be Bill Callahan. But time is required for that growth to emerge. The sleeper here is John Ojoku, who I did like coming out of Boise State. I thought he was a kind of an undervalued player. With Duncan and NPF out, he got the run with the first team at OTAs and minicamp. Now, once NPF gets back, I think you'll see more of a rotation. He'll get worked in there. He'll probably be a bit limited once he comes back. But I think that right tackle spot is truly up for grabs at this time, which is exactly, by the way, what head coach Brian Callahan said. That's going to be a real competition as we move forward. We will have more videos for you guys throughout Titans training camp and the preseason, of course, as well. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It's all free right now. I do want to mention Will Levis. You will see a lot of training camp stats. Don't read too much into them, by the way. It's a good thing to have. You just can't treat it as the only thing that matters because we don't know what the situation is more often than not when training camp. If the situation is 1st and 10, the QB throws a pick in camp, that's probably a bad thing if he forces throws. If it's 3rd and 7, you're doing 2-minute drill down by 7, and you're trying to make a big play, that's actually a little bit more acceptable. It's not great, but it happens, right? Not all completions, incompletions are created equal. Now, Brian Callahan's had praise for Will Levis, and I wouldn't expect anything else so far. It'd be a really, really bad sign if the head coach is publicly bodying his new QB. This is a big training camp, though, for Will Levis. And no player, I think this is the right way to approach it as well, will have more attention paid to him than Levis. Ryan Tannehill's not here. Levis is the unquestioned starter. And I know it's only year 2, but we're already kind of approaching on the make or break campaign. Maybe not full-on make or break. Maybe it's show promise or else. Because Tennessee wants to figure out, is Levis our guy? And the O-line's a very valid question mark. The receiving core is not. So you should be able to get a feel for if Levis is going to be the franchise guy or not by the end of this regular season. And step 1 is training camp. So what is your confidence level in Will Levis? I want honest answers here. Don't just, you can drink the Kool-Aid fine, but try to be objective here. What is your confidence level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, of course, the low end, 10, the high end. We'll stick with the quarterback here. I think some good insight from Brian Callahan on the QB2 battle. And there will be a true competition between Mason Rudolph and Malik Willis. Now, if Rudolph wins, maybe that means Willis is on the roster bubble. If Willis wins, it means Rudolph's probably going to stay contract-wise. There's a battle brewing here. Here's what Callahan said. It'll be pretty split, even. Obviously, at some point, you have to make a decision. And a lot of that will be how they play. They're going to get plenty of opportunities to play in games in the preseason, and that goes a long way in the evaluation process. But also the performance in practice every day, the consistency. They'll both have equal opportunity to establish themselves as the backup quarterback. Who do you think is the backup QB? You couldn't just enter the year with Levis and Willis. You had to add somebody else to the roster. They picked Rudolph, who won some games in Pittsburgh, but I'll hold off on my overall thoughts there. Pick a backup QB. R for Mason Rudolph, W for Malik Willis. Rudolph drove the bus in Pittsburgh down the stretch last year. Now, he made a couple more plays against the Bills in the playoffs. It also allowed a couple more plays, too, which I think is something we have to discuss there. The numbers look great in 2023. It was a lot of easy passes, but he didn't turn the football over. And if the goal of the backup quarterback is to come in for 3 games or 4 games and try to go around 500, I do think Rudolph can handle that. Now, make no mistake about it, Willis has better upside, but you have to get him to operate the offense in a way that wasn't consistently happening last year, and I think was actually kind of upsetting to Mike Vrabel, and I think that's why Vrabel just didn't like him. I've never seen a QB, and he did this at Liberty too, just refuse to attack the middle of the field. Well, in the Bengals, and then this Bengals-based offense for Brian Callahan, they like to attack the middle of the field. So that battle is certainly one worth watching in the preseason.